Thanks so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. This is the first time that I've been at Dreamforce as an employee of Salesforce and not just an attendee, and it's totally mind-blowing to be surrounded by 170,000 people and on stage right now. A little bit intimidating. They put the new guy next to Tony Robbins. So I appreciate all of you are here just because you couldn't get to Tony Robbins, and I promise that even though I'm not going to be quite as inspiring as Tony, I promise you will leave this room more productive than you entered. So I'm here to talk about Quip. And the Quip team at Salesforce is focused on one extremely clear mission. We want to change the way people work together. In our view, the way that all of our teams work has completely shifted over the past decade. But the tools we use at work just haven't kept up. The millions of people who use Quip every single day to be productive love it because it offers their teams a path forward. A path away from email attachments, away from meetings, and away from checking their email inboxes 1,000 times a day. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this discussion today, it's that Quip is a way your team can be productive without email. I'm going to show you how Quip works, and we've got Tim Kendall, the president of Pinterest, here to talk to you about how Pinterest uses Quip to be more productive. But I thought I'd start by giving you a little bit of an overview about my background, because I think it contextualizes why we created Quip in the first place and why Salesforce is all of a sudden interested in productivity. So prior to starting Quip, I was the chief technology officer for Facebook. And just like many of your customers and many of your companies are going through digital transformations, Facebook was completely transformed by the smartphone. Facebook, just like Salesforce, started off as a website. And we monetized that website by putting advertisements on the right-hand side of every web page that we served. And somewhat unfortunately, just as we were going public, all of our users were moving from the PC to the smartphone en masse, faster than we could change our business model. We had to change everything about what we did at Facebook to move with our users. We had to retrain every single one of our engineers in new mobile programming technologies. We had to completely reinvent our business. There is no side of the page on a small smartphone screen. And we had to completely rethink how we delivered our products to our customers. In most of the world, like sub-Saharan Africa, over 90% of the people who use Facebook had never even seen it on a PC. If we didn't turn into a mobile-first company, and if we didn't deliver these features mobile-first, most of our users would never even know that they existed. And so by the end of my Facebook journey, all of our products looked completely different. When you were tagged in a photo, we didn't even bother sending you an email anymore. We just sent a push notification to your phone. And when you tapped on it, you just opened the photo right there. Entire new industries like mobile messaging went from 0 to 1 billion monthly active users in this 1 or 2 or 3 year time frame. And yet I took a step back and looked at the tools we used internally at Facebook to get our work done, and they were archaic in comparison. I had this supercomputer in my pocket, and the state of the art in working at Facebook was writing on a virtual 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and attaching it to an email. And this is the idea that Kevin Gibbs and I were obsessed with when we started Quip. What would productivity software look like in a decade? If you were to start from scratch, with none of the preconceived notions, and redesign productivity around mobility and around communication, what would it look like? It's a really hard question to answer, candidly, because Microsoft Office has had a monopoly on this experience for decades. It's hard to even imagine productivity without the apps in the Microsoft Office suite. So we spent a lot of time thinking about the history of productivity to try to predict its future. And we didn't go quite this far back, but it worked really well for a slide. We spent a lot of time thinking about what does productivity actually mean? Why do we create productivity tools? And we came to one simple conclusion: to enhance communication. We went from painting on the walls of caves to writing because it enabled us to communicate better. We went from writing to the printing press because it enabled us to communicate with a much wider range of people. As we started building technology to help us communicate, that technology was really about democratizing access to these forms of communication. With a typewriter, anyone could typeset words on a page. With a copy machine, anyone could operate a printing press. So in the 1980s, when these charming fellows invented what we now call the productivity suite, it was really just a continuation of that trend, digitizing the communication tools that we already use. That piece of paper in your typewriter became Microsoft Word. That slide on the overhead projector became PowerPoint. And that slide rule and calculator on their desks became Excel. And then by the 1990s, we got the internet and we got email, and we were able to attach these virtual digital pieces of paper to email and send them to anyone around the world in milliseconds. It was probably the biggest productivity boost we've had in any of our lifetimes. And then it just kept on going. In 2007, in San Francisco, not that far from here, Steve Jobs got on stage and introduced the iPhone. And it kind of changed computing as we know it. In my consumer life, I no longer rely on email because I have all the apps on my phone connected to the cloud and in my pocket all the time. So you'd expect that this productivity suite that had made so many strides over the past couple of decades would have benefited from this mobile revolution, but instead, we got this: more email. We have the supercomputer in our pockets, and all we do with it is send more email and read more email. What happened? My guess is that unless you're an attorney, you haven't opened up Microsoft Word to write a memorandum in about a decade, but you've probably thumb-typed about 1,000 emails on your phone. All of us have willingly given up about 30 years of R&D in the word processor to thumb-type emails for one simple reason. It's more important that the recipient of what you're writing can click reply than that you have footnotes or fonts. Communication is the most important feature of productivity. And that's why communication is the foundation of Quip. Kevin and I knew that if we wanted to reinvent the productivity suite, we had to reinvent how teams communicate. Because otherwise, we'd just be making another file type that you'd be attaching to another email. And that's the core concept in Quip. Quip combines communication and writing in a single integrated product experience. So you can work and communicate with your team without going back to your email inbox. In Quip, everyone can edit the same document or same spreadsheet at the same time on any device, no matter where they are in the world. And every Quip document, every Quip spreadsheet, and every Quip checklist has a chat thread attached to it. So you can actually communicate about what you're working on without going back to your email inbox. In Quip, that 40 email chain to make a decision is a shared document with the state of the decision right there for everyone to see. And all the conversation that went into that decision is attached to it. In Quip, that proposal that's today called proposal version 4 final.doc, and I know each and every one of you has made one of those documents before, that's a living document that's always up to date, and you always know where to go to talk about it. With Quip, we really think about 4 key values. And the first and the most important is that Quip is built for teams. The legacy products even have it in their name. The legacy products are personal productivity tools. Quip is a team productivity tool. Every feature in Quip is designed to move teamwork forward faster. The second thing about Quip is we were designed in the mobile era. We were designed from day one to be mobile first. And we're not expecting you to type every single document on your phone, but it means every feature of Quip works on your phone, whether it's editing a formula in a spreadsheet or sending a message. With Quip, you can truly run your company from your phone. And finally, Quip is deeply integrated with the Salesforce Productivity Cloud. We have a Lightning module, so you can actually embed Quip documents in Salesforce records. So all the spreadsheets, documents, and discussion about an opportunity are attached to the opportunity itself. You can also pull Salesforce fields directly into Quip documents and spreadsheets. And when that field is updated in Salesforce, your spreadsheet automatically updates. It's truly one platform and one cloud. And that's what we mean when we talk about the future of productivity. We think that you should expect more from your productivity tools. Every single person on your team should be able to work from anywhere, in real time, from any device. Our customers tell us that Quip eliminates the work they hated. Those tedious meetings, those status update emails are replaced with a simple comment on a document. Quip is the product that our industry should have made a long time ago, but we were so addicted to email, we didn't have the courage to imagine something new. And the amazing part is, it actually works. We asked our customers was our promises actually coming true? And they actually measured the impact of Quip on their business, and the results were inspiring. The teams that used Quip had 28% fewer meetings than their counterparts who didn't use Quip. Their projects finished almost 30% faster. And probably the most amazing statistic is we reduced internal email by 1/3. The teams that used Quip worked faster, they were more productive, and they were happier. And here's a few examples. So Facebook, my old company, they're a Quip customer, and they started like a lot of our customers start, on the Instagram team. The Instagram team had a need for collaboration. They were launching their advertising product, and it was a cross-functional initiative across a lot of different offices between engineering, product sales, and a number of external partners. It was a product collaboration that was meant for Quip. And it was so successful that now it's spread throughout the whole company. And every single month, every single Facebook employee, over 20,000 employees, use Quip to get work done. They've also leveraged our API in our platform, so Quip integrates with all of their other internal tools like Facebook at Work, and Quip is now the standard for productivity at Facebook. Electronic Arts is another great example. You've probably seen pictures of David Tinson, who's one of our customer trailblazers here at Dreamforce. He truly is a trailblazer. His department, which is communications, has an incredibly challenging goal, which is to be responsive to the gaming community as issues come up in all of their games. And the team, if you've seen all the buzz for games like Battlefield 1, the team that created that buzz did it in Quip. Ultimate Software is another great customer. They're a publicly traded software company with over 1,000 employees, almost all of whom use Quip every month. Their CTO, Adam Rogers, has now mandated that all their projects are done on Quip because he measured it, and the projects that were done on Quip got done faster, and the teams came out happier. And then we have Pinterest. And it's one of the most innovative companies in the Valley, and we have the president of Pinterest here today to tell you a little bit about he and how his team uses Quip. Tim, come on stage. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to join us at Dreamforce, or the Ohana, as we like to call it.
That's right.
So, Tim, can you just give a little background on how you use Quip and how your team uses Quip at Pinterest?
Yeah, maybe just like a quick step back, which is for those of you who don't use Pinterest, and I'm sure some of you do and some of you don't, what we're effectively trying to do is build a catalog of ideas on your phone that you can use to essentially plan your life. So what you want to eat for dinner, what you want to do this weekend, where you want to travel next summer, over the holidays, what kind of house you want to live in a year, all those things in the future. We want to build this visual catalog of ideas that you can use to do that. So critical to that is design is incredibly important, as is engineering. And so the collaboration between those two disciplines is essential. And when we think about how our company works, those are obviously the functions, but you think about vertically in the company. So I kind of think of myself as hand-wavy overhead, right? I just need to figure out like what is going on. I need to have a lens into the company and basically make sure that people are generally aligned on the direction that we're headed in strategically. And then you have a whole set of people who are doing a ton of coordination. And then you have the people doing the actual work. And what we have found with Quip is that, and it gets to your point about being able to use it on any device that you want. When you think about the hand-wavy, overheady people, they often are not at their desk. I'm never at my desk. And a lot of those coordinating people are not at their desks. And so the idea of being able to use this on phone or tablet as you're moving around the office or as you're commuting it's a game changer in terms of your ability to track and watch and help out while the people in the actual company are doing the work.
You really undersell our job here. It's interesting, when we started talking about this, the stat that really stuck out to me was that over 50% of the usage at Pinterest is on mobile phones, which is crazy. That couldn't have been true for anything you used before. Do you mind giving just maybe a concrete example of a project you worked on with Quip, just to kind of paint the picture for how it changes the way you work?
Yeah, sure. So, not unlike the ad product that you talked about that Instagram worked on, we were developing an ad product a little over a year ago around video. We didn't have video on Pinterest, and we certainly didn't have ads that had motion or had video. And we were trying to figure out, we had this sort of requirement of marketers, which was, look, we need video. Video is the next big thing. We've got to get motion in front of our audience on your platform to tell a story. But we also had designers and engineers who weren't so hip to the idea of doing an interruptive autoplay type experience, at least to start. And so we had to do this collaboration where we had this business requirement, which was get motion in front of the user, but the user requirement was don't be too interruptive, especially in an environment which they're not used to motion. And so through collaboration, the business team and the engineering team and the design team, they came up with this very clever cinematic preview or view for a video ad, so that when you're scrolling through Pinterest and you come across one of these cinematic ads, it actually moves at the same velocity. The video moves and previews at the same velocity as you scroll. So if you scroll up, it moves in a certain direction. If you scroll the other way, it moves the other way. And so it creates this preview, and it creates motion in front of the user, but the user still feels like they're in control. And this is something that when they came up with it really hadn't been created on the phone. And I think that what we found is that when these disciplines work together, they can't work serially. They can't even work in parallel. It has to be this iterative, like interdependent coordination. And when we do that, when we get that intersection right, that's when we invent really cool things like that.
I mean, it's interesting because one of the stereotypes of tech companies, and I think it's probably true at Pinterest, is kind of a tool overload.
Yeah.
We have legions of engineers who love tools, and we make too many of them. So why Quip? Like, how did Quip stand out in the plethora of other options that you had? Like, why did you guys choose to use Quip?
So it wasn't a situation where we mandated it. It sort of seeded itself. And then I think the two things that really precipitated the usage, maybe three things. It works so well on mobile relative to anything else out there. The integration of the communication piece with kind of the living document just makes it work really well for sort of persistent, a problem or a project that you're trying to work on persistently. And then finally, it's super fast. And that's part of why it works so well on mobile, but it's just a very crisp, lightweight, fast experience. And with tools, when you make them crisp and lightweight, it's not just tools, right? It's products. Pinterest, part of the reason it works well is that we spend a lot of time. In fact, we talk about speed as a primary, if not the highest priority feature. And you all clearly have done that. And what it does when I think people start to use it is they just become addicted because it's so responsive. And then you just feel productive.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. And it's interesting the way you talk about products. It seems like sort of the values of the product, Quip, are actually important to you. And we talk a lot about transparency and pace. Tell me more about the values of Pinterest. Like, how does Quip help you instill a culture at your company?
Yeah. Well, when you think about Pinterest, the product, I think it's a really cool demonstration of an engineering discipline in terms of creating great recommendations for people and personalized recommendations, combined with visual design and interaction design. And so one of the core values that our founders came up with was this idea of knit. And the whole concept of that value is if we create a forum in which multiple disciplines can collaborate or knit or interweave their expertise, we actually can create something better. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And Quip, like I said a little bit earlier, Quip is perfect for that because it allows for that iteration and that cross-disciplinary collaboration in a way that feels fast and light and works well. And then we have another value that, in a sense, is designed to somewhat counteract knit, because one of the problems with knit is that it can slow things down.
Yeah.
Because if you could sort of over knit and say, oh, we got to get that discipline and that discipline and that discipline. What about their opinion? And so to counteract that, we have another value called go, which is kind of when in doubt, go. It's sort of a sense of urgency. And so we see that in conjunction with this knit idea working well at the company. And I would say that Quip really underpins that in terms of the utilization and usage.
Well, Tim, thanks so much for taking the time out of your incredibly busy day. You're one of the fastest growing companies in the Valley. Everyone, a round of applause for Tim Kendall. Thanks, I really appreciate it. So you've heard a little bit about our values and heard some amazing customer stories. And now I'd like to show you the product, show you how it works. So this is a Quip document. And the coolest thing about a Quip document is that there aren't separate apps for all the things that you want to do. With Quip, you can actually mix and match checklists, spreadsheets, text, images, all in a single canvas. And you don't need to decide what app you want to open before you start your project. This document right here, it's got a chart, it's got a bulleted list of notes, it's got a checklist of action items at the bottom, it's got a spreadsheet of data, and it really is the hub for this project. It's not a bunch of separate file attachments and separate email threads. But the thing that really shines about Quip are its social and its communication features. These little names here are what we call app mentions. You can think of app mentions a little bit like tagging a photo in Facebook. When you app mention someone in a Quip document, it sends them a notification, and when they click on it, it will drop them right into the document where you mentioned them. You combine that with a checklist, and you've created the ultimate project management tool. Almost every single one of our customers takes their meeting notes in Quip, and they make a checklist of action items, and they mention all the people who have things to do, and they can actually track all the action items without ever sending an email. The best stories I've heard are that customers say Quip works so well for this that they don't actually ever have follow-up meetings anymore. Quip spreadsheets are also incredibly awesome from a technology perspective because you can actually embed them inside of documents. It means that documents don't need to be a separate file attachment. They can live right in the context of the project that you're working on. And the data in spreadsheets isn't trapped within a spreadsheet. You can reference the data from spreadsheets inside of your document. And it means that you can actually have an executive summary that automatically updates when the finance folks update the spreadsheet. It's a really connected platform. It really changes the way you think about what a spreadsheet is for. And then obviously, most importantly, every Quip document has a conversation attached to it. And this is the reason why people can actually live inside of a Quip document and have it truly be a hub for their team. They can actually talk about what they're working on without actually going back to their email inbox. So Quip is documents, spreadsheets, checklists, and chat in a single integrated product experience. And I'm going to show you a demo of what that actually looks like right now across a bunch of different devices. In this demo, the documents are real. The scenario is a little bit embellished because I was told by my team this is a way cooler scenario than what we actually do at work. So, as you know, we were recently acquired by Salesforce, and I work for Mark Benioff now, and Mark Benioff is a tech mogul. So tech moguls love their hobby projects, and Mark Benioff's hobby project is this self-driving hovercraft. And being an expert in productivity software, Mark thought that I was the perfect executive to lead this project, of course. So every day on my way to work, I hold my phone awkwardly right in front of my face like this, and I check in on this project. And what's awesome about this is sort of a side project for me too. My day job is Quip. I can actually see everything that this entire international team has been working on while I've been away from the office. I start off in my inbox and I see everything that's happened since I've been gone. But on this morning, I get a notification because Mark heard that Elon Musk is going to launch his hovercraft 2 weeks before ours, and we can't have that. And so I'm a pretty savvy tech executive. I just started working here, so I say, of course I'm not going to say no to my new boss. And I agree that even though I'm a little bit worried about the engineering schedule, we're going to make this happen. The coolest thing about this experience, hovercraft aside, is that this is actually the way I walk to work. I actually do, on my BART train ride, read up on everything going on in the office and respond to it and get feedback. And as things are happening in the office, I can respond to them in real time. So now I've promised Mark that we're going to finish this hovercraft 3 weeks earlier than planned, so I have to get my team going. So our executive team meeting is in a few days, but I want to get people going now. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to give a little background on my team first, though. Because this is a very strategic project for Salesforce, we're spread all over the world. I'm here in San Francisco. My marketing manager's in Austin. Praful, our engineering manager's in New York. And we've got a whole operations team in Dublin. And so I know that we're not going to meet for another couple days. How do I get this internationally distributed team on the same page now so that when we actually do meet, we've got that pace going? So we're running Quip, of course. Quip's the way this international team can all feel on the same page. So I go into that document that we use to run that weekly meeting. I add an agenda item so I can tell people we're going to talk about this new time frame. And then I swipe the document over and I use app mentions because I want to call their attention to this now. I don't want to wait until they get back to their apps. And I tell everybody via app mentions, hey, Elon Musk is going to beat us to the punch. Mark wants us to launch 3 weeks early. Are you guys on board? And even though our team is spread throughout the whole world, everyone has push notifications on their phone, presumably. They all roll out of bed, respond. Everyone's all in. We're all going to sign up to finishing this project 3 weeks early. And the scenario is contrived, but it is amazing. Quip is extremely great at working with distributed teams. It really makes everyone feel like they're on the same page. It's almost like you walked over to someone's desk, set a piece of paper there, and started talking to them. It really feels like that. You really feel like you're together. And it's something that's really unique about Quip, and the reason why, well, this project is a little contrived, this team is not. I'm sure all of your companies have offices all over the world, and Quip is the perfect tool for that. So let's see what happens. They all signed up to launch 3 weeks early. Let's see how we actually launch this product with Quip. Praful has the hardest job running engineering. He has about 40 engineers across hardware and software, and they need to figure out how to launch this thing 3 weeks earlier than they'd previously planned. So he runs his project in Quip, obviously. And the product roadmap is linked right off this executive team meeting document because Quip is a really interconnected product. So he clicks on it and he goes into the spreadsheet where he's managing the product roadmap. And he tries to do his best guess about how to shrink the time frame by 3 weeks. And he goes into the conversation, mentions everyone so that everyone notices, and tells everybody, hey, you need to figure out if this is actually possible. I need to get back to Brett today with whether this is actually going to happen. The coolest thing about this isn't just that Praful's talking next to a document. You've obviously seen that. The most amazing thing is all the conversations about this schedule are attached to the schedule. So if you imagine you're one of the engineers on Praful's team who didn't actually notice that this was happening, when you go back to your desk, that engineer, she can actually see that the schedule changed and see all the conversations that happened up to it, rather than that information being trapped in other people's email inboxes like it is now. It really means that for a team, all the information they need to get their work done is all in one place, rather than split across 1 billion different email inboxes. So then Praful wants to tell me the engineering team thinks it's viable, that we're actually going to make this launch. We're going to make it. We're going to launch 3 weeks early. So he wants to call my attention to it. So he mentions me in the document, and I'm still on my apparently extremely long walk to work, holding my phone in the same position. And I notice that I got mentioned in that product roadmap. And I drop right in, and I can actually view that spreadsheet on my phone. I don't need to pinch zoom. I don't need to install a plugin. Everything just works. I take a look at the roadmap. It looks good. I'm OK with the features they cut. And I tell the team, great job. This is going to be an amazing launch. So now that the engineering team's on board, I need to get the communications planning over. We had talked to hundreds of reporters about our self-driving hovercraft. They think it's launching 3 weeks from now. It's going to launch immediately. We need to get them on board. And that's going to be Sarah in Austin. So Sarah does what a lot of us do in communication. She works with an outside PR agency. And Quip is an amazing tool for working with external vendors. In this case, Sarah uses a spreadsheet with her PR agency to keep track of all the reporters they've reached out to and their current status. So the first thing she does is she tells Ryan at the agency that the date's changed. And then Ryan is going to reach out to those hundreds of reporters and figure out if they can move up their stories. The amazing part about this is Ryan is going to talk to all those reporters and have this incredibly complex project management process. But Sarah never needs to email him to check up on his work. Because as he's doing that, he's going to update this spreadsheet in this living document. So anytime she wants to know what's going on with the press, she just goes back to this document and checks it to see the status. She can keep track of this like multi-100-person outreach without ever sending a single email. So we've done it. The engineering team's on board. The press, it looks like we lost a story up there, sadly. Wall Street Journal, whatever. At least we still got the New York Times, and we got our launch. And the launch is obviously incredibly successful, because that's how we roll. And the first thing we do, of course, is go back to Quip to plan the launch party. And Mark gives us all raises. Which I hope you're watching this, Mark. Could have send this clip to him anyway. So, the thing you should take away from this is really nothing to do with hovercraft. It really has to do with teamwork. Our vision for Quip is that teams should be able to be productive without email. And the teams who use Quip can accomplish the impossible. They can move faster because they're always working together. And we have thousands of companies around the world who have adopted this new way of doing things. It fits in right in with your existing IT tools. It doesn't need to be a sort of an either-or decision. And the thing that I'd encourage you to do is simply try it. If you have a phone, open the App Store, search for Quip, and just install it. It's free to try, and you can add your colleague to it and just see what it's like to work on a living document together. If you go to quip.com/df16, we've got some great information there, sort of custom tailored to Dreamforce. And if you meet any of the Quip Rangers in the green Converse and green hats, you might have seen them, they'll help sign you up too. When you sign up, you'll get some awesome custom Dreamforce content on your phone as well. So I really appreciate your taking the time to hear about Quip, and I really hope you try it out on your phone. Thank you very much.